Prince Harry is going to be in the UK in just a few days' time. On September the 8th, he's going to be visiting the Wellchild Awards. It's a charity he's supported for about 17 years. He's patron of this charity that looks after kids with life-limiting illnesses.
Imagine this contradiction. Prince Harry, once shielded by armored convoys, now told no by a CEO. Not just any CEO, Emma Walmsley of GlaxoSmithKline, a $70 billion giant. The request? A corporate-funded private jet to attend a children's charity event. The answer? Flat rejection. And the fallout? Bigger than one missed flight. Because this isn't just about travel logistics. It's about a man who once believed the rules of ordinary life did not apply to him, suddenly colliding with the reality that corporations no longer bow.
We say a very good morning to Matt Wilkinson, Royal Editor of The Sun. Matt, we were doing this the other day. Prince Harry, though, is the story this morning, coming to the UK for the first time next week.
Fans online claimed the request was framed as necessary for Harry's safety, his image, even the success of the Wellchild Awards. But to GSK, the math was simple. Their billions fund medicines and vaccines, not luxury jets. One insider put it bluntly, they save lives, not celebrity reputations. That single quote spread quickly on forums, a meme-worthy snapshot of the reversal in Harry's fortunes. And it raised a bigger question. If charity was the focus, why did the jet matter at all? The Wellchild Awards should have been a moment of light. For decades, the event has honored the courage of seriously ill children and their families. Harry has long tied his personal brand to the cause, presenting himself as its patron. But according to reports, his team insisted on luxury travel and even head of state level security before he would commit. For critics, the contradiction was glaring. How could a man who campaigns on climate awareness, urging others to reduce air travel, demand that a pharmaceutical company bankroll his private jet? Commentators speculated that GSK recognized the reputational minefield instantly. If they said yes, the story would not be about children. It would be about hypocrisy. And that is where the setup crystallizes.
I've gone over to see his father for a couple of days.
But you know as well as I do that the main gripe of the royal family, led I think by William and his father quite rightly, is that whenever anything shows a sign of thawing or there's a chance to meet and discuss, that it ends up in the press because that is what sustains the Sussexes. And we've talked about this before. I've always been, you want to get out of it, go. But if your entire life is then centred on making money out of criticising the very thing that you purport to not care about, people will call you hypocrites. I don't think she can ever set foot in England again.
The rejection wasn't just corporate policy, it was a signal. The days of automatic privilege are gone. Once upon a time, when Harry was a working royal, convoys, jets, and hotel suites were unquestioned. But after stepping down in 2020, those perks vanished. And this latest episode shows that when he tries to recreate them, the answer is no. For fans, the image was unforgettable. The soldier prince who once commanded global attention, suddenly grounded by a corporate email. It felt like a curtain lifting on the illusion that he was still untouchable. And as one British editorial noted, the symbolism mattered as much as the decision itself. Because when a corporation tells a prince no, the world begins to wonder who will be next.
I am not on board with this, Mark. I feel like I'm going to rain on your parade when I tell you that I don't think that this royal reunion is actually happening.
Now, tell us why you say that, because a lot of rumours are that because Harry's in the country, Charles is battling cancer, there was the secret summit with representatives from both parties, that a big date is on in a week's time.
When news of the private jet rejection began to circulate, the internet lit up with the kind of reaction Harry once reserved for adoring crowds. Only this time, it wasn't applause, it was ridicule. Screenshots of old speeches where Harry urged people to consider the environment were paired side by side with headlines about his jet request. One viral post read, "Cut your carbon footprint. Unless you're a prince, then let Big Pharma pay." The sarcasm was brutal, but it captured the sentiment perfectly. Fans weren't just annoyed, they felt deceived. On TikTok, users began remixing clips of Harry's environmental talks with the sound of jet engines roaring in the background. On X, formerly Twitter, hashtags like #JetSetHarry and #CorporatePrince trended for hours. Commentators speculated that GSK's refusal might embolden other corporations to take a harder line against celebrity requests that clash with public image. Even supporters struggled to defend him. As one sympathetic fan admitted on Reddit, "I love Harry's work with veterans, but this is tone deaf. Kids deserve the spotlight, not his security detail." Each comment pushed the story further from a simple misunderstanding into a narrative of hypocrisy. The press, smelling blood, followed quickly.
Well, I personally think it's unattractive to use your children to promote your work. I think not only from the fact it's in a way exploiting them. Secondly, I can't imagine that Prince Harry is particularly pleased about it. And in the longer run, of course, the children will at some stage grow up. And I don't know how pleased they're going to be to find that they've been used in this particular way.
Reports suggested that GSK executives feared headlines more than costs, calculating that subsidizing a royal's luxury could become a reputational disaster. Several outlets drew comparisons to Spotify's $20 million loss on Harry and Meghan's abandoned podcast, framing the GSK story as another chapter in a pattern of corporate disillusionment. First Spotify, now GSK. Who's next to say no? Asked one commentator on Sky News. The framing stuck. Suddenly, this wasn't about a single flight, it was about an ongoing collapse of influence. And behind the noise came a bigger sting, Harry's own charitable branding.
It's always the back of their heads or their face with a heart over it or something like that. And they're going to wake up at a certain point and say, why is this happening? Why did we not meet our grandfathers? And neither of them. And why did we meet our cousins back in England who seem to have rather an interesting role in life?
For years, the Wellchild Awards have been marketed as his personal passion project, yet the headlines now placed him at odds with the very values the event represents: humility, courage, resilience. Commentators warned that if the public began to see the awards as a stage for self-promotion, the charity itself could suffer. That warning became its own talking point on morning shows and podcasts, with analysts questioning whether the children and families involved might feel sidelined. The implication was painful. Harry's actions risked tarnishing the event he claims to champion. The rising tension left Harry cornered. Fans were mocking him, the press was amplifying the contradictions, and corporations were calculating the risks of association. What was once a carefully managed image of compassion was now colliding with a narrative of entitlement. And as one PR insider put it, you can survive bad headlines. What you can't survive is becoming a punchline. For Prince Harry, the backlash wasn't just noise online, it was the sound of doors closing. As the private jet controversy gained momentum, another layer of the story surfaced, and it proved even more explosive. Reports suggested that Harry's team didn't just push for luxury travel, they also requested security on the scale of a head of state. According to insiders cited in British media, the ask wasn't modest. It included armored vehicles, elite close protection teams, and a full operation that would cost millions to stage. For a pharmaceutical company whose mission is developing medicines, not bankrolling presidential motorcades, the request was staggering. Commentators were quick to connect this to Harry's long-running battle with the UK Home Office. Since 2020, when he and Meghan stepped down from royal duties, the government has maintained that he is not entitled to taxpayer-funded protection. Harry has filed multiple lawsuits to overturn that ruling, even suing the Home Office directly. Each time, courts reaffirmed the same point. Security is granted based on official duties, not personal preference. The revelation that he allegedly tried to circumvent those rulings by shifting costs onto a corporation struck critics as a direct challenge to the legal precedent. One legal analyst told ITV, if a company bankrolls a quasi-state security detail, it undermines the very rulings Harry lost in court. Fans online claimed the security demand exposed the real motive behind the jet request. It wasn't just about image, it was about recreating the cocoon of protection he once enjoyed as a working royal. But that raised another contradiction. Harry has spent years branding himself as an independent figure, someone who walked away from the crown to chart his own path. And yet, the details suggested he was still trying to live under the same invisible shield he left behind. On Reddit, one viral thread put it bluntly, "You can't quit your job and then expect your old benefits. That's not how the world works." The revelations hit particularly hard in the context of his charity appearances. For decades, the Wellchild Awards were seen as authentic, a young prince connecting with children and families in moments of profound courage. But critics argued this latest demand transformed the event into something else, a platform where Harry's personal insecurities were prioritized over the cause itself. Commentators speculated that GSK's refusal was less about saving money and more about avoiding headlines, where a children's charity became a backdrop for royal entitlement. And in corporate boardrooms, perception matters more than anything. This was the revelation that shifted the narrative from embarrassing to dangerous. Because if corporations were asked to bankroll quasi-state security, where would it end? Reports suggested some executives feared setting a precedent, that celebrities could outsource their protection to companies under the guise of philanthropy. In the end, the refusal wasn't just about Harry, it was about drawing a line in the sand. And that line, once drawn, cannot be easily erased. By the time the jet and security revelations reached mainstream headlines, the damage was already spiraling. What should have been a low-profile charity appearance turned into a case study in how fast privilege can backfire. Commentators on BBC Radio framed it as a watershed moment, comparing Harry's trajectory to once beloved stars who slowly became liabilities. The symbolism was too strong to ignore. A prince told no, not by the crown, but by a boardroom. And that boardroom wasn't alone. The GSK standoff instantly triggered flashbacks to other high-profile walkaways. Spotify's decision to end its $20 million deal with Harry and Meghan was cited repeatedly in news coverage, with analysts noting how few projects had materialized despite lavish contracts. Netflix, once the Sussexes' safety net, has reportedly scaled back future commitments after underwhelming viewership. Even Archewell, the couple's own venture, has struggled to deliver the kind of impact once promised. Reports suggested corporate partners have grown wary of being drawn into stories where philanthropy looks like a photo op rather than genuine impact. One PR veteran told The Guardian, "The problem isn't the cause. The problem is the brand attached to it." Fans online amplified the drama with brutal efficiency. Memes of Harry being denied entry to a jet were spliced with clips of him in military uniform, reminding viewers of the contrast between his past service and present demands. One viral caption read, "From soldier prince to frequent flyer, denied." The humor was biting, but it spread fast, cementing the idea that this scandal wasn't isolated. It was part of a downward slide. On TikTok, creators stitched the GSK story with footage of Harry's courtroom appearances, painting a picture of a man always fighting, always demanding, always disappointed. Even more damaging was how insiders framed the shift. For years, Harry's presence at Wellchild was seen as additive, a royal spotlight elevating children's bravery. But sources now claimed his involvement risked overshadowing the very children he sought to honor. Reports suggested that corporate sponsors feared backlash if events were perceived as revolving around Harry's personal needs rather than the kids. And once that perception takes hold, it can poison an entire charity. Commentators warned that the awards could lose legitimacy if audiences felt the focus had tilted. This was peak drama. Not because of a single jet or one rejected request, but because it revealed the fault lines running through Harry's entire post-royal identity. Corporations once saw him as safe, bankable, untouchable. Now they see volatility, lawsuits, hypocrisy, and distraction. For the first time, it wasn't just critics asking whether Harry's presence added value. It was partners, sponsors, and executives, the very people who decide whether doors open or close. And the message was clear: doors were starting to close. The fallout from GSK's refusal echoed far beyond one corporate rejection. It signaled something deeper, a cultural shift in how institutions handle celebrity privilege. For decades, Prince Harry embodied a storybook arc, the cheeky soldier prince who carried public affection even when he stumbled. But now, reports suggested corporate executives viewed him not as an asset, but as a risk. One analyst on Bloomberg went so far as to call him a depreciating brand. That language stung because it reframed Harry not as a royal or philanthropist, but as a business calculation, and a poor one at that. Fans online claimed the Wellchild Awards themselves could feel the ripple. Memes about jet-set Harry overshadowed the children's bravery, shifting attention from families to a prince's demands. Commentators warned that if future sponsors fear bad headlines, the awards could lose corporate backing altogether. It was a bitter irony in trying to elevate his image at the event. Harry may have inadvertently endangered the very cause he champions. This was the domino effect critics highlighted, one demand setting off a chain reaction of reputational risks, not just for Harry, but for the charity too. And yet, the broader cultural context is what makes this scandal resonate. Hollywood and celebrity culture have shifted sharply since 2020. The pandemic exposed how out-of-touch luxury excesses look to ordinary people. Younger audiences especially prize authenticity over glamour. Commentators speculated that Harry, still operating with a 2010s mindset of jets and convoys, had failed to adjust to a world where influencers and activists succeed by being relatable. In this new era, entitlement isn't just outdated, it's toxic. As one viral TikTok put it, "We don't want speeches from jet seats. We want leaders who walk the talk." The message was unmistakable. From the Home Office to corporate boardrooms, from social media threads to editorial pages, the response to Harry's request drew the same line: privilege has limits. Titles and lineage no longer guarantee doors will open. Respect has to be earned. For Prince Harry, who once seemed untouchable, this was more than a setback. It was a turning point. The moment the world began to treat him not as an exception, but as just another celebrity. And that brings us to you, because this story isn't just about Harry. It's about how fame, privilege, and hypocrisy collide in the modern world, and what happens when the illusion finally cracks. So here's the question. If a pharmaceutical giant can deny a prince, what happens when Hollywood's biggest studios or sponsors make the same call? That's what we'll be covering next. Make sure to subscribe, like, and hit the bell so you don't miss the next twist in this saga. Because in today's celebrity culture, the next door to slam shut might surprise you.